Did someone say stuffed crust? Welcome back to WHANAU Takeaways, where we show you how to make your favorite takeaways at home, but better. And today we're making a stuffed crust pepperoni pizza. It's gonna be amazing. Let's go. Yummy! I love burgers. It's stressful in here now. Look at that. We made that. Whoa! I love food. Cheese. I just love cheese. As always, WHANAU, go and wash your hands and let's get started. The very first thing we need to do is make our pizza dough. We've made this recipe twice already on our channel. We made pepperoni wheels and my favorite, Hawaiian pizza. It is so easy to make and so delicious. We're gonna start with some instant dry yeast. You can buy this in a little pot or in little sachets from the supermarket, and we just need 1 teaspoon. Then I've got 1 teaspoon of sugar. You can use any kind of sugar, and the sugar acts as food for the yeast, so helps it come to life. Then I've got 300 grams of warm water, so you want it to be just above room temperature, but definitely not hot. So the warm water helps bring our yeast to life, but if it's too hot, it will kill the yeast. Then we're just gonna give it a little whisk together, either with a whisk or a fork, until that yeast kind of dissolves into the water. That's nice and bubbly. Then we're gonna add in a teaspoon of salt and 500 grams of plain flour. And just start by bringing it together with a fork, just nice and slowly. And once your flour has started to incorporate and you can't mix it anymore with the fork, we're gonna take out the fork. We're gonna add in a drizzle of olive oil or any kind of oil, and this just helps get a nice crunchy base. So about a tablespoon, but I'm just gonna give it a little drizzle. That'll do. Then it's time to get our nice clean hands stuck in. You can either knead this in the bowl or tip it out onto your bench. And then bring it together with your hands. So we're gonna kind of start just by pressing it all together. Then once all of your flour has started to incorporate, we're gonna start kneading it. So you can either do this with 2 hands or 1 hand, and you kind of press into the dough, fold it over. Press into the dough, fold it over. And you just keep going for about 10 minutes until you get a lovely smooth dough. And then when you get to expert level, you can swap to one-handed. So we push and fold, push and fold. I have been kneading for 10 minutes. My dough looks so beautiful and smooth. I've just shaped it into a little ball, and you know it's ready when it's lovely and smooth, and you can push your finger on and it starts to bounce back up again. So it's got lovely elasticity to it. Now I'm gonna pop this back into my bowl with a little drizzle of oil. And this just stops the dough from sticking to the bowl. So you can give it a little coating in the oil, and you can spread a little bit around the edge of the bowl. Don't worry if you've got a little bit of extra flour in there. It's all good. Right, we'll pop that back in there. Then we're gonna cover this with some Glad wrap. Make sure it's nice and tight around the edges. We don't want any air going in here because it's gonna dry out our dough. Then you're gonna pop this somewhere warm for about 45 minutes to an hour until it's doubled in size. I'm gonna put this in my airing cupboard because it's lovely and cozy in there. And we'll see you in an hour. Our dough is ready. It looks beautiful. It has risen lovely. It's even got a little bubble coming up here. Look at that. Now it's time for the fun part. We're gonna give it a good old punch in the middle, and that's gonna knock out some of the air. Are you ready? Toru, rua, tai. That's like the best feeling in the world. Right, let's tip this dough out onto our surface. It is so beautiful. Look at that, it's so smooth. Now we're just gonna reshape it back into a ball, and that's gonna help knock out some of the air. I just like to give it a big pull and a fold, almost like I'm folding the washing. And then we're gonna flip it around this side and tuck in the bottom. We've got a nice little ball ready for rolling out. Now I'm gonna make one big giant pizza, but you could easily cut this up and make lots of small pizzas, depending on how you and your whānau wanna eat it. So I've got a little bit of flour here, and I'm just gonna give a little dusting on the bottom, and then a little dusting on the top, and a little dusting on our rolling pin. Then we're gonna roll this out into a nice big circle. And because we're doing a stuffed crust, we wanna go a bit bigger than our tray because we're gonna fold in the edges to create our stuffed crust. So we're gonna start with a little cross in the middle. By doing a little cross in the middle, it means we can roll out each of these sides, and it just helps us keep a bit of a circle shape. Oh, this is gonna be so good. And then we're just gonna grab and spin and roll. Grab, spin, and roll, and that helps us keep a nice round shape as we go. And you can just give it a little flip. And we don't want to use too much flour. We don't want to dry out our dough, but just enough that it's not going to stick to your surface or stick to your rolling pin. Right, let's get this nice and big. Put some muscle into it. Is looking massive. But is there anything better than a big pizza? Nah. Okay, we're gonna have to very carefully lift this onto our tray. So I'm gonna kind of just pull it. And it's okay that it's too big because we're about to make a stuffed crust. Now it's time to stuff that crust. The easiest way and the best way to do a stuffed crust is using cheese strings, but you could use any cheese. You could just cut little strips and stuff them around the edges. So the first thing I'm gonna do is open all my cheese strings and just lay them around the edge where I think they're gonna go. Oh, they're so wobbly. This looks so good. Now you can absolutely wrap them in like this, but I'm gonna fill all these gaps with a little extra cheese just because I want it to be super, super cheesy. So I'm just gonna take some of my extra grated cheese that I've got here and just fill in all my little gaps. This is gonna be unreal. You do know I love cheese. Cheese is my favorite food. Now it's time to wrap these up. We want them to be really nice and tight so that the cheese doesn't escape. So you're gonna push the dough over the edge to make a crust and tuck it in nice and tightly, and it's going to create a little tunnel for our cheese to melt. If you're finding your dough's a little bit dry because you floured it a little bit too much and it's not sticking down, you can just dab your fingers in a little bit of water, and that will just help the dough stick down around the edges so it can be nice and tight. I love cheese. Right, once you've tucked them all in, just run your finger around the edge to check it's really nice and tight. Now the next step is completely optional, but I'm just gonna give the edges a little brush with some oil, and that's just gonna help it be nice and shiny, but it's completely unnecessary. You do not need to do it. Let's load this pizza up. I'm going pepperoni pizza, so we're gonna start with some pizza sauce. We're just gonna do a big squirt in the middle. And then use the back of a spoon to spread it out. And then you can get right up to the edge of our crust. And I like a really saucy pizza. Then it's time for cheese, my favorite thing. You can use any cheese you like. I'm actually just using Edam because I put mozzarella around the edges, but you could use the mozzarella, you could use whatever you've got in your fridge. I may have got a little bit crazy with the cheese, but I do love cheese. Now it's time for some pepperoni, but you can top with any toppings you like. Now it's time to go in the oven. My oven has been preheating to 220 degrees Celsius, so nice and hot. Always make sure you ask a parent or caregiver for help whenever you use the oven. And because our pizza is so big and full of toppings, I'm gonna put it lower down in the oven, and that's gonna help the bottom get nice and crispy too. This is gonna go in for about 15 to 20 minutes, or until it's lovely and golden around the edges and all the cheese is melty and crispy, and I'm so pumped. Oh my gosh, this might be the biggest pizza I have ever made. I don't even have a board big enough for it, but it looks amazing and so much better than a takeaway. Right, I'm gonna really carefully shimmy it off the tray onto my board, although it's very hot, so I gotta be quick and careful. Ah! Got it! Let's cut some slices. I cannot wait to eat this. They're so big. I can see the cheese exploding out the crusts. I'm very excited. Be nice and careful while you do this though, because your knife is sharp and your pizza is hot. Oh yeah, it's time to try it. I'm so excited. Let's get this crust up. Oh, ah! Look at that cheese pull. Oh, I'm so pumped. Oh my gosh. That's so good. I can cry, it's so delicious. And look at that. That is so much better than buying a takeaway. Your family are going to be so impressed if you make them this. If you do have a go at making this recipe, make sure you send us a photo over on our website, and while you're there, enter our Christmas episode. We want you to draw an epic gingerbread house, and I'm gonna try and make it. We'll see you next week. Have a wonderful week. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video if you enjoyed it. Ka kite! That's the best pizza ever!